let's talk about Europe. So European leaders today are telling Europe to prepare for war. French President Emmanuel Macron addressed Europe last night, saying that Europe will not accept capitulation of Ukraine to Russia under the guise of peace negotiations. So like peace negotiations where people don't die is a guise? Okay.
Yeah.
Fool me. Okay. And the Danish prime minister says, quote, peace in Ukraine is more dangerous than war in Ukraine. Like, Europe has gone absolutely mad. Those are the words of the warmongering Danish prime minister, Mette Frederiksen. Listen to her in her own words, and here it is subtitled.
I don't think we should panic, but I think we are in a hurry. And I think we have been in a hurry for 3 years, but now we really have to scale up and to speed up because Russia and Putin is not only threatening Ukraine, but all of us. And we have to be able to defend ourselves. My idea about Ukraine is the same as it has been now for 3 years, that they have to win this war. And if we allow Russia to win the war, I'm sorry to say it directly to all of you, he will continue and they will continue. And maybe we will even give them a better situation than today, because if we end this war now with some kind of a frozen conflict, a ceasefire, it will give Russia the possibility to return to Russia, to mobilize more funds, people, and maybe to attack another country in Europe.
Nobody pulled the microphone back and said, what proof do you have of that, given that Russia has specifically said they're not interested in any more than the contested regions that have been long since fired upon by Ukraine? So on what basis are you spewing these possibilities? Nobody is asking those questions. They're allowed to just say, he's coming for all of us, not based on any facts. I mean, this is a playbook from Orwell. This is 1984. Speak where peace means war and war means peace and death means life. There's no other way to see it.
Well, look at those microphones that are shoved in her face. I mean, Philip, if you can just show those microphones again and just play it without audio here, you can see Reuters, France 24. These are all. There's DW. These are all like these are all corporate media organizations. Al Jazeera. But you're not going to get any independent journalists asking those questions, because you're really. Independent journalism in Europe is not a thing. You have state-run media, basically. So that's what you have there. You're not going to get those answers. Elon Musk tweeted this. Then shortly after that, they want the forever war. How many more parents with no sons? How many more children with no fathers? By their logic, it never ends in Europe. So today is a huge day in Europe. European leaders coming together to hold an emergency summit over Ukraine, pushing for more war against Russia, while President Trump is pushing for peace right now. The cocaine-sniffing troll Zelensky, of course, was there in Brussels, of course, today to ask for more money, for more weapons, to thank them for not ending the war. Those were his words. The unelected leader of Europe, Ursula von der Leyen, was also on hand to tell us how important attacking Russia really is. And she announced the new Rearm Europe plan. Watch.
Europe faces a clear and present danger. And therefore, Europe has to be able to protect itself, to defend itself, as we have to put Ukraine in a position to protect itself and to push for a lasting and just peace. I present today to the leaders the Rearm Europe plan. The Rearm Europe plan provides up to 800 billion euros for defense investment. It gives the member states fiscal space to invest in defense. It gives the member states possibility to invest in the Ukrainian defense industry or to procure military capabilities that go right away to Ukraine.
Okay, notice what she said there. That was important. She said it gives all 27 European states the space to invest. Well, where do they get that money? Through debt. It's written in the plan. It specifically says that they can borrow the money in order to beef up their weapons supplies and their military. And in return, they get a pass in triggering the excessive deficit procedure. So they have a debt limit, too, that's set by the EU. And the EU is saying, screw that, take on as much debt as you need because we need to match the United States defense budget, which we have closing in on 900 billion. Now they're saying, because the euro's worth a bit more, we'll spend 800 billion and we will match them. They can't do it. They should learn from us because we had to go into debt in order to do it. And they're like, we like debt too. We can do that too. So who are they buying from? Who's going to make this money? This is not written out in their plan. Where are they going to buy it? Well, no. I mean, I suppose the World Bank, I don't know if that's really, we'll have to look into that.
Think about the amount of money that Ukraine is on the hook for in terms of monetary loans from the IMF and the World Bank. So just like Britain was after World War II, they were in debt to the United States up until about 6 years ago. Think about that. Since World War II, the amount of money that we let them use and through loans, through the IMF, through the World Bank, that's exactly what Europe has been doing now with loans to Ukraine. So they will be forever in debt to Europe. Zelensky's basically there mortgaging his house. He's like,
Yes, but she's asking individual member states. Think about Portugal, which is already so highly in debt. And she's saying, take on some more in order to take on this war we are telling you to go into. So if you're a Portuguese person, you don't have any choice. Your government is going to sink the value of your money and your hard-earned dollars in order to go into this war that has nothing to do with you. Yeah, that's what they're saying. That's the mandate that they are putting on every European citizen.
Mr. Vintage in our chat says, thank you for the $20 super chat, says all these leaders banging the drums for war probably have never, zero chance raising an army. Everyone knows a young Danish, British, French man is going to refuse to go and die on behalf of Ukraine and these EU clowns at the top.
But how? How can you resist them, Europeans? You don't resist them for anything else that they do to you, which is odious.
Yeah, I mean, 80% of all your decisions are run out of Brussels. So in Portugal, 80% of your government's decisions are handled by people like Ursula von der Leyen, these unelected globalists. Mm-hmm. In Germany, the same thing is true. So Europe can just destroy Germany's industrial base and they have nothing to say for it.
Well, they're allowing Ukrainians to be taken off the streets while they're going to their job as a dentist and thrown into the conscription. Does that mean that that's what Europe ordains? They let Ukraine do it. So I guess they're saying it's going to happen to you too, European men.
What about your sons? What about your sons and daughters? So that question was asked of Ursula von der Leyen herself in an interview just the other day. Or will, all these sons and daughters going to war? And Ursula was asked in German if she would allow her Kinder into battle, her kids into battle. And she just laughed and said, "Nein, of course not." So it was funny to her watch.
Und es wäre ein Auslandseinsatz notwendig, dann würden sie mitgehen müssen. Und ich würde genauso zittern und bangen wie jede andere Mutter.
Ist jemand bei der Bundeswehr von Ihren Kindern?
Nein.
Nein. I would never send my kids to war, but I'll send yours. Yours are fine to kill, but not my kids. No, of course not.
Well, if you live in the capital, in the Hunger Games, you don't fight the districts. You raise them up to do that for you.
That's exactly right. Remember, Ursula told us that the Russian military is in tatters. Remember, she told us this. We covered this at the time where she said that their Russian military was in tatters. They're using parts from washing machines in order to build their missiles. Where did that go? Where did that narrative go? I think that narrative went somewhere to die.
Oh, that's the exact same thing that Barack Obama said. Russia doesn't make anything. He said they're just a languishing country. I saw this today on X called Russophrenia, like the side-by-side narrative that Russia's super dangerous and can take over the world, and also that Russia is collapsing and hurting and terrible and a jalopy. Both things cannot be true, but they work for the narrative if you don't question them.
Yeah, watch this. So here's a look back.
Russian military is taking chips from dishwashers and refrigerators to fix their military hardware because there are no semiconductors anymore. Russia's industry is in tatters. Europe is ready to assume its responsibilities. Rearm Europe could mobilize close to 800 billion euros of defense expenditures for a safe and resilient Europe. We will, of course, continue working closely with our partners in NATO. This is a moment for Europe, and we are ready to step up.
All right. So That whole narrative was a sham.
Well, I love who was it? The woman we played at the Dutch woman who said, we've been in a hurry for 3 years, but now we're really in a hurry because Dad cut our credit cards.
Right.
Basically. Now we got to do it ourselves. We didn't think we had to before because Joe Biden had the purse and let us, do whatever we want. But now that Trump's got our credit cards and have been, our gold card was cut.
Well, he is the one cutting these cards right now. So President Trump is now cut off intelligence sharing with Ukraine. This was reported overnight in the Washington Post, and the BBC had it this way. Watch.
Donald Trump has ordered a pause in intelligence sharing with Ukraine as part of his suspension of military assistance to Kyiv. It's a move that could seriously affect Ukraine's ability to target Russian forces and to defend itself.
Yeah, just so you understand, they don't fire any missiles without the help of the United States. They don't track Russian forces. They don't launch HIMARS without the express use of American intelligence to launch all of it. So when Donald Trump cuts off your intelligence funnel, that means you can't target anything. Game over. According to the Washington Post, the sharing of intelligence, striking these targets, it's game over. So now you're shooting in the dark. And so when Putin thought that they would, end this war in like a few days or a few weeks, that's presupposing that you don't have the United States basically launching all of your missiles for you.
Right.
And putting all of your targets in place.
Yeah.
So Trump shut that off. Now, Zelensky's media TV hosts, are calling for the assassination of the United States president. So this is Vadim Karapak, who said, "Where is Harvey Oswald now when the country needs him so badly?" And more than one calling for the assassination of President Trump. So that's one of Zelensky's state-run media hosts. They're calling for the assassination of President Trump. So I guess Americans should feel emboldened. We want to send more money to these guys. It's unbelievable.
That's regime change. We're supposed to be against that collectively.
Calling for the assassination of President Trump. So Marco Rubio called this out and said something we've been saying on this show for years, which is that this is a proxy war, of course, that what is happening in Ukraine is Western countries coming into Ukraine and using it as a proxy war against Russia. We were labeled as Putin apologists and propagandists and smear campaigns against any independent media that said that. Now Marco Rubio on television, after going to mass, says it, and now suddenly now Fox News can say it? Watch.
It's been very clear from the beginning that President Trump views this as a protracted, stalemated conflict, and frankly, it's a proxy war between nuclear powers, the United States helping Ukraine and Russia. And it needs to come to an end. And no one has any idea or any plan to bring it to an end. The plan of the Ukrainians up to now and their allies on Capitol Hill and the people you talk to in other countries is, let's just keep giving them as much as they need for as long as it takes. That's not a strategy.
All right. He says it out loud. It's a proxy war. Now we have it in the flesh.
This was not his narrative since the start of the war. So I'm confused that all of a sudden he gets it. Yeah. But I'm glad that he did. Maybe he did some studying.
Way to go,
over
Marco.
the holidays.
He read a book.
Yeah.
He read a few books on the subject.
Did you see that Trump canceled or is canceling something like 240,000 Ukrainian visas from the United States?
No.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. So Trump planning on canceling legal status of 240,000 Ukrainians. 240,000 Ukrainians.
Who we encouraged to come here over the Biden administration. I mean, these are civilians. They have nothing to do with it. We allowed them to get in the front of the line, in front of refugees from South America and people who are trying to legitimately get refugee status. They were able to jump the line. They got all kinds of like crayons and nice clothing and host families and things like that. And so now we're going to treat them like this after giving them this whole "you're the main victims of the world" status. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay. Don't make friends. What does Jeffrey Sachs says? It's incredibly dangerous to become the friend of the United States.
Yeah.